Welcome to Krizcast, nomad life.
Welcome back to another episode of Krizcast Nomad Live. In this episode, we talked to Zayn Alam, who moved from India to Middle East to Mexico and finally decided to settle in Spain. So we talk about how he find his initial days in Spain, and he talks about his favorite food styles, festivals in Spain, and most importantly, how to meet new people. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome to Krizcast, nomad life.
Glad having you
Welcome
here.
to
I
Krizcast,
want to
nomad
know
life.
how life is in Spain. I have been talking to various people from different kinds of background. Tell us who you are and what you do in Spain.
So thank you for that, Chris. I'm Zain. I'm originally from India. I've been here in Spain for the last 5 or 6 months. I'm currently working here at Amazon, and I moved to. I think the first question would be why Spain, right? Out of all the
Yeah, yeah.
places in the world, I mean, of course, the first thing I can say, why not, right? I don't think there's a better place to be at the moment. So
Uh-huh.
for me, a big bit of background about myself. I was before Spain. I was well. Again, let's go back a bit further, right? Um, I was born, brought up in the Middle East.
Uh-huh.
And after that, I moved to India to complete my higher education, my university degree. And after that, I was also a bit in the mindset that, I want to do something different, right? And I think that's kind of been something that's defined most of my route in life. So I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to just go the normal route. I mean, I already did most of that when I studied engineering. And after that, I want to do something different. I received an opportunity to move to the other side of the world. I moved to Latin America. So
Wow.
from yeah, yeah, so that was something pretty unexpected, I think, for me at the time. I moved to from India, I moved to Mexico. I was based in
Uh-huh.
Mexico City for around 6 years. And I moved there thinking that this is going to be an interesting experiment, right? And that experiment lasted 6 years. And that was pretty cool. I loved every moment of it. And I would say that influenced a lot my decision to decide what next for me.
Mm.
I went back to school last year to study and complete my master's, and that was in Europe. I was based in France, and I was looking where to go to next. And I would say my experience living in Latin America definitely influenced my decision to where I go next in Europe. And that would be one of the biggest reasons why I chose Spain. And then
Uh-huh.
after that is when, so it was kind of, coming back to something similar for me, something that I already know, that I'm familiar with, but also being not being back in Latin America, being in Europe, right? So that changes a bit. It's again coming out of your comfort zone a bit, and that
Yeah.
was super interesting for me. And then after course, after coming here, I realized all the other benefits. Right? I'd never been to Spain before that, before moving here. I'd never
Ah.
been to Spain. I'd never been to Spain before actually moving here. I just heard a lot of great stuff about it. And after coming here is when I kind of realized, oh, the benefit that, okay, this part of Europe actually still has sun, even this time of the year, there's still
Yeah.
sunlight, still can
Yeah.
get hot, this time of the year.
Mm.
So all the other benefits that I'm seeing and I'm learning slowly, slowly.
Beautiful, beautiful journey from where you started, and
Yeah.
you covered almost half the world. You just need to explore China and Australia. That's
Exactly.
so
Hopefully one
interesting.
day.
Yeah, that's awesome, Zane. So you went to Mexico, you were in Mexico for 6 years, and that definitely helped you learn the language. Absolutely,
It did.
that's very interesting. I also want to know about living in Spain. You've been in the Spain for 6 months. You know the Spanish language already, which is a good point for you. Like you don't have to go through the struggle of communicating with people. Apart from that, how was your paperwork and all that things in Spain?
Okay. So luckily, due to work, most of the paperwork stuff was done.
Uh,
Almost all the immigration work was done. So luckily, and I was already in Europe at the time, so it
yeah.
was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to just switch over here.
Okay.
Especially even logistically speaking, apart from just paperwork stuff, even logistically speaking, it was much faster because I was
Hmm.
already in Europe. I was 1 hour flight away because I was based in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, it was relatively easy, but
Okay.
I will say still coming over here brings a lot of other challenges, right? So I got here, I moved with my wife actually.
Uh-huh.
So we got here in August, at the beginning of August, which then we realized is probably the worst time to be in Madrid.
Yeah. It's too hot.
it's hot. There's no one here. But then I think there
Yeah.
is positive and negative, right? So I
Mm.
guess the bad part was, of course, we didn't realize how hot it was, and especially we
Yeah.
think, I know, we come from. I mean, I'm from India,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
really. I mean, how hot can it be? How hot can it really be? Right? But no, it
Mm.
does get hot. It does
Yeah.
get quite hot.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge was, of course, finding a place to stay, because at the
Ah.
beginning we were based in a hotel on an Airbnb for 2 weeks, and then we
Okay.
realized the Airbnb didn't have an AC. Right? That's
Oh.
also, we take it for granted that, okay, of course, if it's hot, everyone's going to have an AC. That's not true. So we learned that we learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
But the first 2 weeks looking for a place to stay. So
Mm.
then, for foreigners, it's a bit of a challenge, especially
Mm.
if you don't have history. So that's something weird, right? We realize they ask you for last 3 months of history of employment in Spain, but how are you going to have that if you've never lived here? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of interesting things we had to go through logistically, but
Mm.
thankfully we came here with a bit of time as well, like 2 months before we started work. So
Okay.
that helped us to get this sorted out well in time. And advantage of
Okay.
coming in August, when there is no one there, there's no competition for apartments or places to
Yeah.
stay. Other
Uh-huh.
downside is that there is no supply either. Everyone who's renting is also out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made it work, and it was also one
Mm.
tip I would say is that it's a great time to get to know the city, because there's no rush, there's no
Yeah.
lines, there's no people in any of the museums or anything. So that's another advantage I would say.
Very true. Very true. Madrid becomes so hot between June, July, August. I
Yeah,
mean, it's so crazy.
yeah,
This
yeah.
this year it was even more high because of the climate change effects. There were a lot
Hmm.
of fires and mountains. We see all that in the
Hmm.
news. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So finally, somehow you got settled in Spain.
Somehow we
I
got
hope.
settled in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Somehow we got settled in,
Mm.
and we're so far we're loving it.
Nice.
I
That's
think
amazing.
of course, we've had to learn a couple of things as well, right? I mean, the
Uh-huh.
language is one thing. The language
Mm.
is one thing, but the culture is completely different,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I think,
How do you meet new people? I mean, do you get to go out for language exchange or things like that, or how do you get to see new
that's
people?
a very good question. So, on one hand, I think we were lucky because both of us had already had a small group of friends over here,
Ah,
friends that we've made from life before in Mexico. So my wife's from Mexico as well.
okay,
So
okay.
that's kind of we've kind of bring our story from there to this part of the world.
Uh,
And yeah, so we had a group of friends who were already living over here, so that kind of helped us settle in a bit. It made the transition a bit easier.
uh-huh.
And apart from that, as you said, right, these language meetup exchange and a lot of meetups also happening in Madrid at the beginning,
Yeah,
especially in July, August. And it's a great time to go out and meet people. So that's what we did at the beginning. And of
okay.
course, I think after a while we realized that most of it. So it was a bit funny as well, because when we went to these meetups, you see
Yeah.
that there are a lot of different people at these events, and
Mm.
then they would ask us, "Oh, are you guys together?" Like, "Yeah, we're married." Right? And they're like, "Oh," so that was interesting, and
Mm.
but it was a good way to meet people, and actually it was a good way to actually get to know the places in Madrid.
Mm.
And that was actually from there we made a small group of friends from that. Again, you end up meeting so many people, but from there we
Yeah,
made some people who are still our friends to this day. So that's
yeah,
actually pretty cool. So, that's one way I would also recommend, if anyone's new to the city, actually, it's the best way to actually go out, put yourself out there, even though it
yeah.
might seem whether you're alone or with a partner, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Putting yourself out there makes a big difference. And I think I do see that there are people here who are also doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I think the biggest worry is that, oh, if I go to these language exchanges or whatever, I'm going to be alone, or that no
yeah.
one is, and I'm saying
Everybody's
this not,
thinking the same. I mean, if you,
yeah.
yeah,
And I say this because I used to do this before as well, not just here,
uh-huh,
right? And I used to have these same anxieties, I would say, that when you
yeah,
go there, that what if no one talks to me, or what if
yeah.
I'm alone? What if everyone already has friends? I mean, and I
Mm.
I completely understand that everyone goes through the same thing, literally.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I've never
So
been
that's.
through language exchange until I landed in Spain. I mean,
Mhm,
that doesn't
mhm.
happen in India. I
Yeah,
mean, we're all
no.
speaking our own languages. There's rarely a meetup in India for social things.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens in a different way. People go to church quite often. They go to
Mhm,
temples. That's how they
mhm,
meet new people. But they
mhm.
they don't go deliberately to meet new people. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit.
It happens in India. I think it would be. How would I say that? I said you don't go on purpose to meet new people. It usually happens as part of life.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
lot more natural. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what you can call it. But I think it's a different way. It's another way of doing things, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
again, language exchange in India would be crazy with 100 languages. I don't know. It will be a lot more difficult,
Yeah.
complicated to do it.
Yeah, I can't
But yeah.
imagine. Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, the same thing over here, right? Exactly.
Mm.
So once you come here, then you realize that everyone is in the same kind of situation.
Yeah.
And in most of the language exchanges, very little exchange of languages happen, but you usually end up
Yeah.
meeting cool people and hanging out, which is also
Yeah.
great.
And you get free beers and things.
Of course, that's a great plus as well. Tapas and beer, of course.
Tapas and beers. Okay, talking about tapas, tell me about your food exposure.
Okay. So for me, I think, I mean, I've my greatest experience with food before prior to Madrid has been coming from two cultures which is really known for food, right?
Yeah.
India and Mexico. You know, two
Yeah.
cultures which is known for the gastronomy and the rich, like the variety, the
Mm,
flavor of food.
spices.
So spices, of course, right? And which is also really funny, and I keep thinking about it to this day, right? Like I was lucky enough, I was fortunate enough to go to a place outside of India
Uh,
where they also eat spicy food because
yeah.
outside of Mexico, in the entire continent of North America of Americas, there's no other country that eats this level of spicy, which
Really?
is weird. Which is weird. I
Ah,
mean, everywhere else they had Tabasco sauce probably. That's the maximum, right?
uh,
And for us, that's like, that's sweetener. We
yeah.
use it to make
That's a desert.
it's a dessert, exactly. So, to
Mm,
land up in a place where they also have the
yeah.
same love for spicy food was really interesting, So I think,
Wow.
in a way, like match made in heaven, right? And and then over here, for example, but
Mm,
apart from the spiciness, right? I think there's also regarding what people eat here. So personally, for the both of us, I think in Spain, there is good food, of course, but I
mm,
would say the traditional Spanish food, for me, it seems it's very redundant. I mean, from again, just giving an example, I think
yeah.
people eat a lot of croquetas. There's a lot of
Yeah.
jamon. There's a lot of calamar.
A
So
lot
now
of
this,
meat. Yeah.
a lot of meat. So meat is fine, right? But I think the traditional Spanish food is not something I'm a big fan of. For example, paella.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that might be a very controversial, but I think it's a bit overrated.
Exactly.
I think, and I
They
mean,
say
if you're
it's a
coming from,
Spanish biryani, which is not at all.
which is no, I think you're really doing a disservice. You're really insulting biryani if you say that.
Yes.
But it's one way of looking at it. But yes, I mean,
Mm,
it's all right, but yeah, but I think it's a bit overrated,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah,
But so
I went to Valencia only to eat paella. Somebody said Valencia is the best. I went to Banyol for La Tomatina, and then from there I went to Valencia to taste the paella, and they said the best of the best is in Valencia.
okay,
But no, I don't
and
think so.
okay.
Yeah.
You said you went for La Tomatina. How was that?
Oh, La Tomatina was so good. I still remember
Okay,
how happy I was. It's so good, so good. I'm
I
waiting
just
for August. Mm,
that's amazing. It happens in August. Okay, I just remember.
yeah.
I just say it because I think for most of us, if anyone's from India, and there's a very famous movie
Ah,
where a bunch of friends travel to
yeah,
to
yeah,
do the La
yeah.
Tomatina festival, right? So
Exactly, exactly.
everyone knows that's for most of us, that's a reference for Spain, right? So
Yes,
that's something I've seen. So that's is it
yes,
as they show it in the movie, like, a bunch of lots of people on the streets and everything like
yes.
that, throwing
Close to
tomatoes.
40,000 people in one street. Like you literally can't move even an inch. Like you're with
That's
the
great.
people. It's been 2 years they did. So, the amount of people turn up. I was so surprised to see a lot of Indians. They come from
Really,
France, Germany, Switzerland.
everyone's
So
seen the same
shocked.
movie. Everyone has seen the same movie.
Everyone says on the
Has seen
movie.
the same,
Yeah.
yeah.
India is a huge market. I know how they
Yeah,
know how to
yeah,
get more people. Yeah.
exactly.
Good
Exactly,
stuff.
exactly. But yeah, that's
Mm.
awesome. Yeah, and as I was saying, right, regarding the food, I would say, of
Yeah.
course, there are really good places to eat, but I would say the typical Spanish food is not something that I'm a big fan of.
Uh,
But there are lots. The good thing is that there are lots of options.
yeah. Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of options. Whether you're
Yeah.
looking for Spanish food, fusion, or
Yeah.
completely, I don't know, whether Indian food, Asian food, etc.
Yeah.
There are a lot of options.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, changing is good, but awareness, that's the right term
Yeah,
you were looking
awareness,
for. Being
self-awareness,
aware.
exactly. Mhm.
That's really interesting. Perfect. So we come to a end of this podcast and really nice chatting with you. We started with moving from Middle East and getting married to a Mexican woman and having a happy life. So really, really happy meeting you over Zoom. And also give us one last thought for someone who wants to move to Spain. What can they expect? How life is in Spain for a expat?
Okay. So I would say if someone's thinking about it, if there's anyone out there listening, thinking about moving to Spain, considering moving to Spain, my one line is do it. I would say do it. I know of course, there's a lot of things that need to be done, logistics, etc. But if you have the opportunity, I would say definitely take that leap. Take that leap. It's something to any place you want to go. But I would say Spain, just because of the experience I have over here, what I have seen regarding the place, I think it's a great place to have a great single life, a great family life. So I think you get a mix of both things, and of course, weather. I would say
Yeah,
that's also one. We sometimes take that for granted, especially
yeah,
if we're coming from places with sun.
yeah.
Even if it's a lot of sun, we take that for granted. After coming to Europe, you might realize that sun is a very valuable resource.
Exactly.
So don't take it for granted, and if you do have the chance to do it, definitely.
Sure. Nicely put. Don't take it for granted, but enjoy the
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
Spain is a beautiful country. It has a lot of potential to become
Hmm.
even more beautiful with a lot of more cultures. So it's still in the growing phase. Hopefully,
For
it
sure.
will reach a state where everybody's happy.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
also, I think on the last point, sorry, I think also it's a great chance if you want to learn a language, it's the best place to do it. It's the
Yeah.
easiest one. It's the easiest one to learn, especially if your first language is English. I think it's easiest.
Yes. Yes. Totally vouch that. You can easily learn Spanish. You just need to
Yeah,
be more, how do I say, more curious about the language.
yeah,
You automatically learn.
completely. It's a mental thing. If you open yourself to doing it,
Yeah.
it will happen.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you so much, Zain. Thanks for
Thank you,
chatting with
Chris.
me today. See you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Have a good one.
Welcome to Krizcast, nomad life.